Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now, let the stories begin. Welcome, everybody. So excited for all the amazing listeners around the world. And I always like to start an episode by dangling the carrot of get ready. You're about to be blown away by another amazing, brilliant guest. And in a moment, I'll tell you how far across the world we are from each other right now. Before I do that, though, I just wanted to say thank you to all the incredible people that are listening. Women, men, children, families. It's because of you that this show continues to thrive all over the world. And to let you know, we are now in 87 countries around the world. So I just personally want to say thank you for continuing to be an inspiration to me, sending in your notes and letting us know on iTunes and iHeart and SoundCloud and even on my website what shows truly inspire you and the messages from the amazing guests that I feel so honored to share with you. So on that note, I get the luxury and privilege today to introduce you to this beautiful new, I'm going to call new dear friend in my life, Leslie Kuster, who is sitting in Zurich, and we feel like we're sitting on the couch. Welcome, amazing Leslie, my friend.
Oh, Holly, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Oh, well, the day we met, and we have to give a shout out to our amazing Allie. So we met at Allie's event and we were sitting there at a table together and we're like, you know, and we have to say this, right? You just have to be open to serendipity. You never know what the universe is going to do if you're open to every day. And it just was coincidence. We sat down. We completely connected the minute we met, and then we didn't want to have to move to another table. Do you remember that?
I do. Absolutely. That's right.
Yeah, so it's just those moments that I cherish forever. And boy, are you an inspiration to me, my friend. So I don't even know where to begin, but I'm going to start with just giving everybody a little nibble, and then I'm going to let you share all the magnificence you're doing in the world. But what blew my mind is you, at the age of 54, you're a constant entrepreneur your whole life. But what was fascinating, and by the way, can I say you don't even look a day over 30? So when you told me, I was like, what? But when you turn 54, you're like, okay, it's time to start another business. It's time to continue dreaming again. And you started a beautiful, amazing clothing line called Back from Bali. And you're making incredible money selling on Amazon. And I want all women and men to be inspired that it's never too late to dream again. But Leslie, let me hand the baton to you, because tell us all about this and where this amazing passion came from. Give us the story.
Thank you. Thank you. I would absolutely love to. So I actually started my business, which is called Back from Bali, over 25 years ago, because I went to Bali, Indonesia, and I just fell in love with the clothing there. And then I went back to New York City, which is where I lived, and needed to get a job. And I just didn't want to get a job. There was just nothing that I can see in the newspaper, which is what you did back then to find jobs, that I wanted. And I just had one of those light bulb moments of remembering these beautiful clothes that I had seen in Bali. And I just thought, I wonder if I go back to Bali and buy the clothing I saw, I wonder if I can sell it. And that's what I did. I just jumped right back on the plane. I went back to Bali. I filled my luggage up with beautiful, actually it was children's clothes at that time. They had gorgeous, beautiful batik children's clothes.
Wow.
And I brought it back to New York and I just started selling it at street fairs and markets. And that is what I did for a long time. I also went into wholesale and into stores and that whole world. But what also I did, because I was always very interested in helping in psychology and spirituality, I also at a later time, went back to school and got my master's in social work. And so I had a really strong interest in empowerment and helping and inspiring. And when I moved to Switzerland, which is actually now about 15 years ago, I decided to start a girls empowerment program here called Girl Power.
I love
which
that.
was for young girls.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really fantastic. It was for girls 7 to 14 years old, and it was all mind, body, spirit. And so at the same time, I was doing my business too. So I was still going to Bali. I was still buying clothes. I was still, at that point, actually designing and making clothes, and still going back to New York and selling them. And then I started selling them online. So I was doing both things. I had my Bali business back from Bali, and I had the Girl Power business. And this brings me to the point of what you were just mentioning, which was when I was 54, which is 6 years ago.
That just blows my mind. I'm sorry. Can we just pause for a moment? I'm still having a moment. If everybody could just meet you and be around you, you'd be like, I need to know. I think you should start a business on skincare and nutrients to keep you young because you look amazing.
It helps to be happy and live your dream.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh, my friend, you're so right. And living in Switzerland, let's face it. Okay. So go back to the story that I just rudely interrupted you with.
Yeah. So I got to a point where my Bali business was, I would call it moderately successful, and my Girl Power was moderately successful. And what was happening is I would run from one business to the other and start putting all my energy into it. And that would start to rise and go up. And the other business then would start to go down. And then I would run over to that business and start working on that business. And then the other one would go down. And it was like this seesaw all the time, up and down and up and down, and honestly going nowhere. And that was the moment 6 years ago. I was sitting at my desk and I realized that the only way to be really successful, and by the way, I really wanted at that time to make more money. That was really what I wanted to be doing. Freedom has always been so important to me, and to have the money to live exactly how I wanted to live and where I wanted to live and how I wanted to live was something I really, really wanted. And at that time, I really wanted to make more money so I can do that. And I made a decision at that moment that I needed to choose one of them. I needed to choose either Girl Power or I needed to choose my Bali business, because I realized the secret to success is focus.
Imagine that. Wait, wouldn't that be the best wisdom we could bestow and share with everybody? It's what we lose. The first thing we lose is focus, right? We get distracted. Yeah.
Yes.
So
we get distracted. And I think people think, and I thought too, that I can multitask, that you could follow everything you're interested in. But the truth is, if you really want something to work, if you really do, you have to put 100% of yourself into it, no matter what it is. If your yearning is a successful business, if your yearning is more love, if your yearning is better health, whatever it is, it's having that focus is unbelievably important. But what was really kind of interesting, because at that moment, it was like, okay, which business am I going to choose here? And that's where my head and my heart got all kind of confused.
I can feel this. I can feel where this is going. Yes. Yep.
Because Girl Power to me sounded like heart. It sounded helpful, spiritual, good, positive. That has to be my heart, right? And my Bali business sounded like money and, business and all of that. And that has to be my head, right? But Holly, it was pretty wild, because it became so clear to me that my heart and my gut said, choose my Bali business. And it was my head saying I should choose Girl Power. And I went with my gut. And I swear my whole body started to tingle really. And I felt
I
like if
believe
there
it.
was
Mm-hmm.
like angels in the room, they would all like start singing like, what in the world took you so long?
Because you took the time to pause and really listen, right?
Yeah.
And follow then, and follow that guidance in your heart and in your stomach.
And I think sometimes though, we don't listen or we don't see the guidance, and we have to get to a point where we don't feel good. And when I was sitting at that desk, the reason why I was thinking these things, I need to make a change, is because I didn't feel good about myself. I felt honestly disappointed. I mean, on the outside, it looked good. I had these two things, but I knew there was so much, I knew I could do so much better. And I knew I could make so much more money. And I felt like I wasn't doing those things. And so when you feel bad about yourself, actually, those are the most important opportunities, because those feelings are the ones, those uncomfortable feelings are the ones that push us where we need to be going.
Mm-hmm. And you listened and you did it. And now take us to, I mean, this has been, well, you've taken what your experience and turned it into another business. Now you're sharing your experience and giving advice to people on going to Amazon, right?
Yes. Well, so, what I did at that time is I hired a really good coach who knew everything about Amazon. And I worked really, really hard on this business and changed the product line and really learned e-commerce. And I'm thrilled to say the business is now doing over 7 figures in annual revenue, which is pretty cool.
Fabulous. And that was in a short amount of time. Think about that.
It took about 6 years to bring it from where I had started to where it is right now. So it's just been an amazing experience. And for women in particular, because I wasn't so successful, I would say, those years before, I have learned how important it is for women to be successful and to work and to love what they do and to share their gifts. So this business, not only did it bring me the money and the freedom and everything that I wanted, but more than anything, it brought me such a feeling of empowerment. It brought me such an experience of confidence. It has done so much for me. And therefore, I've gotten to the point now where I would like to share this and help other women, because let me tell you, there is nothing cooler than having your own business, being an entrepreneur, making your own decisions, being able to live wherever you want to live. And the online world, being an online entrepreneur, which I am with Amazon, I could live anywhere. I'm in Zurich. I could live in Bali. You could live anywhere you want, and you're making money. All you need is your computer. So this is so cool that I want to let all the women.
I know you want everybody to know. It's like, you can do this.
You can do this. And by the way, you can do this. All it takes is yearning. Well, it takes a few things. I can go over.
Yeah, it does take a little bit more than yearning, but it does start with a passion, right? It comes from within. And I think that we're all given those gifts and talents, and like the word yearning, but it's a passion that's been put on your heart. And when you really follow it, right, you've got the gifts to make it happen. And I think that's where you're so inspiring, and to remind people, like, I'm going to keep saying it, it's never too late to dream again. And it's never too late to create the beautiful life you want. And I was sitting there listening to you as you were saying, I love having my own business and creating my, doing everything. I was like in my breath right now, I'm going, amen, 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 sister, because I have my own business and I always have. There's been a few times over, the last 3 decades that I've, stepped out of that to whatever that story is, to go into the corporate world, and always back to having my own business. And, I think that people, and I'm going to say women and men, all genders, need to be reminded and given tools on what does that look like and how do you go do that. And that's why I love that you've taken your expertise and passion, and now you're sharing it. Now, what I want though for people to hear, and this is the part that I still don't know much about, and that's the show is about the story behind the story, is that this has not happened like just by a cakewalk for you. And you've had a tremendous amount of adversity in your life in the midst of this. It sounds like you've had to go through a lot of deaths, and losing people that you love in the midst of creating a beautiful life. So I'd love to hear about some of these pivotal moments, my friend, for you.
Okay, Holly. I would love to speak about it, actually. And we're going to go back to I was 17 years old. Because at 17 years old, I was very much in love with a boy named Andy. And he was on his way to picking me up to celebrate my high school graduation. And he was killed in his car on his way to coming over to my house.
Oh, my. No, I did not know this.
And so at 17, I feel like, it really kind of changed my whole life, I have to say, really, because it's not typical for a 17-year-old to experience something like that.
No.
And what happened for me is my parents actually at that time, my mom kind of whisked me away to a vacation, to because I obviously was so sad and shaken. And while I was there, I met this man, and he had some other kind of health problem or something that was pretty bad. And of course, at that time, at 17, you're sort of like, why is this happening? And, there must not be a God. And, you kind of go into all this crap, basically.
Of course. Yeah.
And he, for some reason, he just opened my eyes, and he started talking about how precious life was and how he survived what he survived. And that at such a young age, first of all, that I even experienced love, that someone loved me at 17, and we really were in love. And he sort of shook me out of it. And from that moment on, what became really apparent to me is that, and I know this sounds so typical, and I know everyone has heard what I'm about to say a million times, but I really realized that stuff happens, like stuff just happens, and we can't control the stuff that happens in our life. And the only thing we can control is our attitude towards it and what we do with it. And somehow that idea came to me at that time, and I have lived my life like that ever since. And I am grateful for that experience, not obviously grateful he died, but I am grateful for the gift of that experience, because it deepened me at 17. It brought me into a world that most 17-year-olds don't go to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I carry that with me, and and I've had other deaths too. I've had other experiences with other boyfriends dying as well. I used to say to my husband, stick around with me. Somebody will pass.
Oh, stop it. Oh my God, Leslie.
But, I say that also, Holly, in a positive way. It has brought me to the other side. It brought me to spirituality. Oh. It brought me to a connection with God. It brought me to a deeper place. All of these difficulties have brought me to actually peace and love and joy and connection. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're awful to go through. And when you're going through them, it feels horrible, but actually there really are gifts. They're like our seeds that are planted in us. And again, what we do with it is where we have the control. What we do with it is our opportunity.
Yes. Oh, and you know what? This just explains this light that you have. So the moment we met and we're sitting there and I think anybody listening can hear it in your voice, Leslie. You have this beautiful essence of light and energy and peace. And I truly believe it's the spiritual side to all of us. And when you finally get to a point in life that you give yourself permission to tap into the spirituality, I mean, my life's been a whole different world since I've let go and started to trust. I called this year my spiritual quest. It's called Blessed. And
Wow.
because I just feel that that's the most important thing. And when we let go of all the other things that get in the way, it's kind of like forcing yourself up the river versus just being in the flow.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
right?
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I mean, it's amazing how life works, as you said before, if you pay attention to it, because the way I found spirituality was actually not until I was about 33 years old. And once again, life gave me some big, big punches. And those big punches at that time were miscarriages.
Really?
So I had 3 miscarriages with my first husband. And I was so distraught after the third one that my father had been going to a spiritual retreat in New Mexico. And he said to me, why don't you go for a week, just for some rest? And honestly, Holly, I was not interested in spirituality. It just was not my thing at that time.
And you were probably angry too. Like, why would God keep doing this to you, right?
Yeah. And I was so sad. I couldn't stop crying. I cried all the time. I did go to this spiritual retreat. I cried the whole plane ride there. I cried the whole car ride when somebody picked me up. I cried every day. I cried all the time. But again, now looking back, I never would have gone to this place. I mean, never, unless these miscarriages happened. And it is in this place, by the way, that I have met my wonderful husband, Heinz, who I'm now married to and have been with for 25 years.
You met him at that spiritual retreat?
That's where I met him.
I'm covered in goosies and I'm going to cry.
Aww.
Because in the moment of what was seen as some of the worst moments for you, look at the gift you were given, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man.
So it's like, again, the gift. And like for some reason, the universe just didn't want me to have my own children, which was actually, I'm sure why I started Girl Power it was my way of having children and working with children, but it just wasn't somehow meant. And interestingly, my husband, never wanted children, so
that worked out perfect.
It worked out perfectly, and thus started my spiritual life and my spiritual journey, which is, as you were just saying before, it's what it's all about. It really is. That is what it's about. And connecting there that is where we find our peace and our joy and everything. So
I knew I loved you. Now I just love you even more. You're just such a beauty. And if people wonder, right, if they question if there's a higher power in the universe and God, it's moments like this that we're given, that if you can see the miracles. And I know not always is it easy, right? We've all been in I call it my dark cloud in the corner of my closet, right? Thinking things, you think it's the end of the day, the end of the world. But when you can come out of it on the other side, just like you have, and I'm literally still covered in goosebumps because, Leslie, thinking about your father being at that retreat in New Mexico and you just coming out of a really horrific 3 miscarriages and thinking there's no God. Why would anybody do this? But to think by you going, you tapped into the greatest part of your entire being and met the man of your dreams.
Yes, that's right. And who would have known, right?
Right. And now the two of you are living this magical life, and you look at how many and I'm going to say young girls, you had a passion in your heart, and it's not about one or two children. You've impacted, I can't even imagine, hundreds, if not thousands. And that's where you were needed. And that was your ministry,
Yes.
And you're still on a passion. To me, your ministry is still going because you're taking what you're learning and you're wanting to empower women, especially to, keep dreaming and go start a business, and you can do this. And we need people like you telling us that.
Yes, I do. Because as I said before, I've worked really hard on my business for the last 7 years. And I was starting to feel like I was living behind my computer screen and not really like connecting anymore with people and humans and everything. And so I had that little yearning inside of me. It started probably about a year, maybe even 2 years ago, where I felt like, okay, did the business, fantastic, love it, but there's still something more. There's something more for me to do. I feel it. And now I'm stepping into that. So what that is to help, to inspire, to educate. I love working with women, but of course, men also would get a lot from this, but to really help people to be an entrepreneur and to understand what it takes and just to go for it, because obviously there's real work involved, but so much of it is mindset. So much of it is connecting with focus, as I said before, with your yearning, with your deeper desires, all of that. And I am so excited to share everything with people now. And that's kind of my passion right now.
Oh, I love it. And I can only imagine. And you've made me think, what's funny, Leslie, is I'm sitting here with you, I'm thinking about because for what I do for a living, I'm on the road all the time. And I love what I do. I love, being a messenger of things that really make a difference in people's lives. But I've yet to figure out how to turn that business into online business. So so I might be a potential client of yours. We need to talk about this because I'm getting to a place now where, and I love, like I said, I love what I do, but it would be really lovely to be able to figure out how to have revenue online, right? And doing
this.
Yeah.
And you could do it. And you can do it, Holly. I actually suggest doing it through video.
Oh, that's right. Remember the idea you gave me that day? You're like, why aren't you doing? Because remember the conversation. Wait, now we're going to have to laugh. Remember this moment at our table, and somebody said, we were thinking about, I'm laughing, but they said, like, Holly, what would you do to replace your revenue if you couldn't travel and you couldn't speak? And then you looked at me and you go, yeah, like if you had a stroke. And I go, oh my God. And then I looked at you and I made half my face freeze. I did a funny look and I'm like, you mean like that? And I was like, I don't want to forget that great conversation. And I would love to, can we plan some time? I know I'm interviewing you right now, but I would love to reconvene and have that conversation and really get your ideas around that, because I think that's huge.
Would love to, because this is the part that, as I said before, with online businesses and selling online, and you're making money 24/7. And therefore you're making money when you're sleeping. You make money when you're driving. You make money when you're eating. You make money when you're having sex. You just make money.
Wait, there was something really cool about that, right?
It's like, really, how cool is that? So this is what I would love for everyone to experience this, because this is what has been like the most amazing part of having a business that is successful in the online world.
Okay, this is it. Okay, as we wrap this up, I want you to be able, in 1 minute, I want you to tell everybody how they can learn more about you and more about just if they want to engage you as a coach in any of the aspects of your business. I know there's going to be people that are going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to learn from her. And before we do that though, I always love to ask my guests, and I'm going to ask it a little differently to you. I typically like to ask, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self. I feel like for you, it's your 17-year-old self, because that was a really pivotal moment for you in your life. And, when you think back on that young woman, that day or, in that time of your life, based on who you are today and what you know, Leslie, what advice would you give that young 17-year-old self based on your life today?
Life is magical.
Mm.
I know sometimes it could feel heavy and the clouds are there, but it's like this, it's absolutely magical. We're in a dance with creation.
Mm.
And we're co-creating all the time. And our most difficulties can be our greatest opportunities, and our greatest opportunities might turn into our greatest difficulties. There's no good or bad or right or wrong. It's all just so magical and so mystical and so beautiful. So I think I would also say relax, relax, take a breath. There's a lot of time if we're lucky. There's a lot of time. There's so many opportunities to change one's life. It's never too late, ever. That is absolutely for sure. And as long as we have the breath inside of us, I feel now it's like our obligation to our soul. It's our obligation to our life, to
Yes.
who we are, to our families, to the people around us. It is our obligation to bring out what is inside of us into the world.
Absolutely. And we were given, each and every human being was given gifts. And it is a disservice to not bring those gifts to the world.
And that's a really good point. And actually, if I can just add to that, because there was, and maybe other people felt this way. When I decided to start, like now I'm doing my videos and helping or speaking or inspiring, there was a part of me that was saying, oh, well, why are you doing this? Is it just for your ego? Is that why you're doing this? There's so many other people out there doing great speaking and talking. So why are you doing it? And I now have really changed. I actually feel that was my ego talking.
Ooh.
It was my ego talking, saying, don't, or you can't, or don't bother, or, all those other voices. It's our spirit and our soul who's going to talk to us and want us to bring those gifts out. And this is what life is. And this is the opportunity we have, is to bring those gifts out. And Holly, you do that in your work, and you do that for other people. And I know you've done that for yourself too. So I want to thank you so much for being such a beautiful, beautiful person and inspiration.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you so much, Leslie. Because, that's the most important thing to me, is when I realize that it is my prerogative in this lifetime to bring my soul's highest calling to this world. And I had to let go of a lot of the shoulding on myself as well. I should do this or I shouldn't do this. And when I finally gave myself permission to let go of all of that, and to truly tap in. And like you just said, and I want everybody listening to truly understand, the greatest gift you can give yourself is to let go of all the noise and all the well-intended people in the world that mean well, but you need to go be alone and begin listening, because your spirit will speak to you. Follow the nudge, follow the heart, and give yourself permission to take the time to do it. And I think you're one of the greatest inspirations, Leslie. And it just made me feel, I want all listeners, please reach out and let me know on my website, hollydowling.com. And I'm going to have Leslie tell you how to get in touch with her. I think it's time that we start celebrating. It's funny. I wanted to start a show about over 50. It's never too late to dream again. Yes. And I feel like you're my inspiration. And if you are a person that's done that, if you know somebody that has, let us know. We want to hear those stories, because that's what gives people hope. So Leslie, on that note, tell us, how can everybody reach out to you and learn more about you? How would you like them to do that?
Yes. Okay. So you can email me at and it's the name of my business, info@backfrombali.com. So it's like you're back from Bali, BALI.com. And also, I would love you to go onto Facebook and find me there at Leslie Kuster Online. So Leslie Kuster Online at Facebook. And also, if you would like to look at some beautiful clothing that I design and make in Bali, please go to www.backfrombaliwomen.com.
And it's beautiful. I have perused all the clothes. And I know that's another conversation we have to have because I found a dress that I love. And there's so many things. So
I would love to give you a dress.
You're so sweet. And I know you said that. So I will definitely get back to you on that one. And I want everybody to go out there and peruse and see the beautiful clothing. And it's so reasonable. And it's just beautiful. Thank you, my newest dear friend, across the world in the place that I'm dreaming to come. So now I have an excuse to come to Switzerland and come visit you in Zurich. And just thank you for the gift of you. Thank you for sharing your brilliance, your wisdom, and your authentic heart with everybody today. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you.
What a joy. Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.